Hello everyone, we've reached week 3 of our course now, and I wanted to just announce what we have to do this week and go over it with you and give you another application of the information that you're going to be learning about. We have to review our study guide for exam 1. That's going to be coming up, so you want to make sure you go over it so you have an idea of what's going to be on the test, or at least some parameters with regard to that, because this is a lot of information, as you know, that you're trying to assimilate in this course. You're going to be going over DVD module number 8. The DSM, you'll be reading pages 345 to 428. You'll read 4 notes. Your textbook is going to be chapter 9. And then your discussion boards, you're going to have 2 of those, 2 questions there that you're going to be presenting, and 2 responses for those discussion board posts. Now, in additional activities, at this point on the research paper, you should start to be collecting your research articles. If you go to the research paper template illustrated, you will hopefully have found in there information regarding how you can look up articles on using Liberty University information so that you can find different articles and print them out for yourself. Remember, you're going to have to properly cite these articles, so start putting them into your the research paper template as soon as you get them. One of the applications for this week I want to talk to you about is depression, because that's the mood disorders we've been looking at this week, we'll be looking at this week. Depression is a very common thing that you'll be going to experience as counselors. Unfortunately, it has connected with it one of the most difficult areas, and that is suicide. It's very difficult to predict whether someone is going to be suicidal or not, and it's one of the scariest things that counselors have to deal with. I know. I certainly was petrified about this when I first started counseling. It doesn't bother me nearly so much now. I sort of have a handle on how to deal with it, but for a new counselor, it's something that's very, very difficult and scary to some extent. Basically, depression is sort of in my view, a conclusion that people make about the world and about themselves and about life. And it also reflects their belief systems, what they believe to be true. Many depressed people feel, for example, that things are hopeless, that there's no hope, that there's no way out of their situation. And as a result, they sort of shut down, and then sometimes they think the only solution is to kill themselves. And unfortunately, it's very difficult to predict that suicidality, and there is a suicide probability scale that I use sometimes, but very often it has to rely on a lot of clinical judgment. The first suicide that I experienced was as an intern in the Veterans Hospital, and I had assessed this man, and I realized that his profile had showed suicide probability and also suicidality, and you have 2 different things in suicide. You have suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideation, and then you have suicidal plans. The suicidal plans are much more significant in terms of whether or not someone might commit suicide. So if someone's telling you they're making plans or giving away their materials, their car, their boats, whatever they have, and they're making amends and writing to people and saying goodbye to them, those are highly significant things, and you'll certainly want to probably confront the individual, and also you may need to report this to the police if you do suspect that the person might be suicidal. However, sometimes it's unavoidable. The man in the VA eventually was allowed to go home against my will, but the psychiatrist had the power to release him. He released him, and in fact he did commit suicide. The second man who committed suicide was a race car driver. I live down here in Orlando, Florida, and we're near Nassau. And there was a race car driver who had been handicapped, and he came to see me in a wheelchair, and he's sort of what they call down here a redneck or a good old boy. And he said that he was not going to live without being able to walk. And he went down to Miami. He said he was going to go to Miami, and if he didn't get help to walk, then he was going to kill himself. So I couldn't really do much about that except inform to his wife what he had said. But really I wasn't able to inform the police at that time, because the criteria for breaking confidentiality is actually clear and imminent danger to self or others. So basically this man went down to Miami to try to get help, and he didn't get help, and I read in the newspaper not long after that, about a month or so after that, that he had in fact killed himself, which was very sorry and very sad, but there really sometimes isn't much you can do. People decide to do this, unfortunately. Now, of course, it flies in the face of our Christian faith, and we certainly have a lot there that we can use to help people not make that decision and draw upon their faith and draw upon God. But anyway, this week is going to be on mood disorders. It's a very important topic, so good luck on all this, and God bless. Bye-bye.